Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Triple Threat Comics YouTube channel. I'm your host, Ian Miller. Tonight, I am welcoming back a very good friend of mine, Jorge Medina. George, welcome back to the show.
Hey, Ian, thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate you bringing me back.
Hey, it's always a blast to to have people that I know and that come back. Yeah, folks, you didn't realize this, but I actually met George back in New York Comic Con last year.
Yeah.
And I actually bought a copy of Wonder Duck. I haven't signed it, and if you haven't read Wonder Duck, it's phenomenal.
Thank you, Ian. Thank you. Thank you so much, bro. Yeah, I appreciate that. I'm glad you liked it, man. I'm glad you liked it.
I really did, and I had to actually buy the rest of the series now because I want to know what happens.
Yeah, I actually have a little announcement to make after, I guess I'll save it for the end. But yeah, I do
Okay.
have a little announcement to make about Wonder Duck.
Ooh, nice. Okay, so yeah. So why don't we actually get started on what we're actually here to talk about? And it's Shameless Plug. Now, the last time you were actually on, we did talk about the basic plot of the story. But for those who don't remember, why don't you just give us a simple recap?
Yeah, sure. So we've all experienced being the new kid anywhere, right? Like
Yeah.
whether it's at school, whether it's in the neighborhood, whether it's at work. And so the story follows this little boy named Joaquin who finds himself in that situation, and he is struggling with it. So he creates an imaginary friend named Pana who's going to teach him that sometimes to fit in, you just have to be yourself. And that's essentially the premise of the whole book. It's a 140-page graphic novel that deals with that, with how hard it is to fit in, especially when you're 9 years old in a brand
Yeah.
new school. You know what I mean? And how that shapes you as an adult later on.
Yeah. Again, I always like that because it was very basic and also it's very relatable because, like you just said, we all had moments like that when we were growing up, whether it was in school or in the neighborhood or just meeting new friends.
Yeah, yeah, and you know what? I mean, some of us are better at it than others. You know, for me, I mean, growing up, the good thing about me growing up, even though I was from a different country, I came here from Ecuador when I was 7.
Yeah.
I loved sports, man. I was always into sports. Growing up in Ecuador, I played a lot of soccer, and I liked baseball when I came in, and I started playing a lot of those sports, and that really helped me make friends. It helped me kind of like find my tribe, so to speak,
Yeah.
and it helped me out a lot. I think a lot of the stuff that we do, I mean, back then, drawing comics and reading comics wasn't as cool, but today it is. And so I think that you see a lot of kids kind of, getting together because of the love of manga or their love. We were just talking about Batman before we came on, right? And things like that, and that
Yeah.
interest that we have together. And I think that that's part of like what the book explores is just that, there are people out there that are very similar to us. And so we just have to be us, and eventually it's going to be fine. We're going to fit in just because we are who we are. And we're going to find the people that are very much like us that are going to like the same things. And it's going to be okay, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. It's absolutely true. So this is 140 pages.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is definitely an undertaking because this takes like a couple of years to
Oh,
do this.
yeah, big time. I came up with the idea a few years ago, actually. I think it was like 2021. I was driving around in my car. I was telling you before, like I do a lot of driving for work, and I had the little plug for your iPhone, right? The little plug, just a little heavy
Yeah.
plug. And I was like, wow, this looks kind of cool, put a little eye or something like that. What would this look like as a character? And it was a plug, and so the title came right away, like a shameless plug. We all do these, right? We all do these shameless plugs for our products and stuff like that. I'm like, oh, that'd be a cool title, shameless plug. But now, what's the story? And originally, it was gonna be a story of a bunch of plugs. Like it was gonna be in a plug world, and they were gonna go around like that. And then I was like, I brought it out of that and brought it into the real world and said, okay, what would that look like if this was almost like a motivational speaker for somebody, like, and he became the shameless plug for somebody. And that's kind of like where the story evolved. But that was a few years ago. That was like in 2021. And so, I mean, you write, and so writing it and developing it took a few years.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to get it right. I didn't know where I was going with it. I kind of like struggled a little bit with how it was going to play out. Then I got an editor. Big shout out to Lori Cunningham, Ali Cunningham, who helped me with the editing of the script. And then, I've known Joseph Valesco, who's the artist on the book, for a
Yeah.
while because he worked on my Wonder Duck stuff. And I said to him, I said, hey, dude, do you want to work on something else with me? Do you want to work on this book with me? And he was like, yeah, dude, let's do it. So I sent him the script. Now, what I did with that, though, you asked me, is this the second issue? And it's not the 140-page graphic novel. What I did was I broke it up into chapters. And I
Yeah.
send it to him that way because I feel like if I send him a 140-page graphic novel to him, it's a little overwhelming. It's like, okay, when are we going to finish this? So I did it in increments of like 5 chapters. So I send him 5 chapter at a time. So he was,
Yeah.
drawing, when there was 32. At the first one, it's like 40 pages, I think, or whatever. But I broke even that down further. So, it took a while, but here we are. And yesterday, actually, I got the final page from Joseph. So thank you so much, Joseph. If you're watching, man, you've been amazing. So yeah, I got the final page yesterday. So the book is complete, and I'm ready to launch next week.
Wow, that is fantastic. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, I always like the concept. I remember telling you this when we did the last episode, which God was almost a year ago. Can you believe that?
I know. It was
Yeah.
yeah, because that was what I think I launched in October. So that was like what, late summer last year or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. It was late summer.
Yeah. Holy cow, man. Time does fly, dude.
Yeah. Then I ran to you in the New York Comic Con. A
Yes.
couple months later, I was like, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was last year. Wow.
Yeah. Wow. Holy cow, man. Yeah. But yeah, it's done, man. It's finally done. And I couldn't be happier with it, man. I couldn't be happy with it. But the crazy thing is now that it's all done, and I do all the lettering myself. So I've lettered it. Yeah, I'm finishing up the last few pages. And so I'm going to print it out one more time, just at home and just read through it and make sure that it's all making sense and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
the beauty of being the letterer myself is that I can change things if I feel like that's a little clunky or the wording here doesn't sound right. So I'm looking forward to that part of it. But yeah, it's done. It's done.
I can't believe we're getting the full adventure in this, so we won't have to wait, for the next issue to come out. But it really just makes sense the way you did it because releasing the first issue just on Kickstarter alone was like, okay, you're just testing the waters to see if there maybe is an audience for this, and you found out that there was an audience.
Yeah.
Because again, there were stores relatable, so it definitely was a smart idea just to release the whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, man. Yeah. So yeah, like you said, the first chapter is to see if there was any interest. And what I also did was, and I think that we should try to do this a little bit. And I know it's not the easiest thing because it wasn't. If you have a website, use your website. Like use it as that's what I did. I used it as a store, right? So like you could have pre-ordered my book, the first chapter, or you could have pledged on the campaign. And what I found, even at the New York Comic Con when I was there, is that when I was telling people about the campaign, because it was live during the Comic Con, what I found was that some people didn't even know what Kickstarter was. Like, they would come up to the table and be like, "Oh, this looks great," and I'm like, "Yeah, it's on Kickstarter right now." And like, what's Kickstarter? I had to explain that it was a crowdfunding platform.
Okay.
So, but what I did was, if they didn't know what it was, I would just send them to my page, to my to my website, and say you can pre-order the book there if you want to. And sure enough, I did get a few pre-orders at that show simply because they wanted the book, but they didn't know what Kickstarter was. So I encourage people, if you have a website, use it. We pay for it, and if you have like one of those that allows you to sell stuff on it, sell your books on there. You know what I mean? Like it just makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense, and I actually had to really listen to that piece of advice because we do have a website, and I had to actually go back to work on it when I'm done with this. So because I'm doing a lot all at once. Yeah. But that was very smart. That was very smart to do.
Yeah. And even for this book, for example, now that was the thing, right? So like I'm like, damn, did I shoot myself in the foot by doing that? Because if people buy it on the website, then they're not going to pledge in the campaign. The campaign may suffer, or the pre-orders may suffer. And what I found was that there's an audience for both things. It's just another way to get your stuff out there. So it worked out, man. And even for this, for the pre-orders for this, I put it up there. Hey, if you want to pre-order the book before the campaign, you can do so. And sure enough, people have pre-ordered the book through the website. So I do have a couple of pre-orders already, which helps me because then my goal for the Kickstarter can be a little lower because
Yeah.
I'm collecting the funds over here to get the printing done, which is what I'm doing the Kickstarter for, is for the printing of the book and to help me recoup a lot of the stuff that I paid up front for the
Yeah.
production of the book,
No, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so you launch next week. What day are you launching?
May 26th, so a week from today. So Tuesday, May 26th at 8 p.m. I have a podcast called Catch the Craze that I do with my buddy Sam Vera, who has a book called There's an Alien in My Toilet, and a couple of books. He's got Cosmic Wars. He does this thing. So we're going to launch next Tuesday night at 8 p.m. live. So join us there. It's going to be a blast. I have, if you guys joined the mailing list, I offered, I gave you options to vote for on the cover. So the people with the mailing list actually, contributed in, what cover I was going to use for the graphic novel. And I will be showing you guys what cover won next week. So if you haven't done so yet, go to my website, getyourmeds.com, and sign up for the mailing list and vote for the cover because we still have a few days left. So.
Oh, okay. I have to check this out. I also have to, do my voting.
Yeah, man, check it out. I'd love to know which one you'd pick.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll know next week. And that's going to be the one that we're going to use. So yeah, it's going to be fun, man. I'm looking forward to it. I'm really looking forward to it.
That you should, because again, I have no doubt this is going to be a hit. I have no doubts whatsoever.
Thank you so much, dude. Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, because it's got everything going for it. So, just for your sake, folks, the link that's been scrolling down below, that's where you get to go to the pre-launch page of Kickstarter. But I'm just going to show you what it looks like, just for your benefits.
Yeah, thanks, man. I actually have to finish up a couple more things on the page itself. This is just a pre-launch.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to, seeing how it does, and, the shameless plug, it's back. When I first did it, like when I was writing it, I was originally going to do like single issues kind of thing, but for whatever reason, man, and maybe you can, I couldn't get it to work as like an ongoing series in single issues because I knew what the story was and I knew what I wanted to tell, but it didn't lend itself to that like, every issue kind of book. So I was like, you know what, I'm just going to do 140 pages. And it ended up being 140 because I wasn't sure how long it was going to be. I knew my ending, but I just kind of worked my way to it,
Well, that's the thing I think you kind of had to figure out, as you make these things, going along. Especially when it comes to ongoing series.
Yeah.
With Shameless Plug, it felt to me, at least to me, I'm not sure if you arrived at that decision until, you just did.
Yeah.
At the time we always talk, I was like, it seems to me that it could be just a bigger and a more complete story and not, an issue per issue thing.
Yeah.
You came to that conclusion, pretty quickly.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah.
It was one of those things like, and even when I sent it to like Joseph, and actually Joseph texted me yesterday, he said that he's used to doing, typical superhero full of just bunch of action, just crazy like stuff like that. And this one obviously is a more coming of age story. So there isn't that bombastic kind of like fight scenes and stuff like that. It deals with, a kid growing up and trying to figure out how he's going to fit in this world that he has just arrived to. So it was very different, but he said he enjoyed it. And that meant a lot to me because I feel like if your artist is enjoying what he's drawing, then I think you have something good going on. Like he didn't like just say, all right, George, listen, it's issue 3. I'm struggling here, man. Like or he just basically said, hey, I have another project that I'm going to work on. So I'm going to have to put this one on hold. He really followed through and just kept sending me the pages. And I couldn't be happier, man. And I'm so grateful that he did that because, horror stories, you hear horror stories all the time. Like, my artist disappeared. I have to hire another one. So
Yeah.
that was great of him, and I really appreciate him for that.
Well, yeah, because again, that's always a risk when you hire an
Mhm.
artist, especially with this type of material, because
Yeah,
they might not, it might be the cup of tea, they might be looking for something a bit more, like you said, action packed.
right.
But this is simple, and even I would draw this because sometimes I like simple stories, and I like cute stories. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
growing up, I was a huge fan of Peter Pan. I
Oh,
loved the
okay.
book, and I loved, and at some point, I got some ideas on that, but I'm not going to go into that because that's another episode. But I love the simplicity of certain things, like Neverland. Because we're adults. We want to go to Neverland. We don't necessarily want to grow up. And thankfully, with comic creators, we don't really grow up. Although we do have to deal with the harsh realities of the world. That's just what
Absolutely.
it is. But in our hearts, we don't. We never really grew up.
Yeah.
So that's why stuff like this, speaks to me as well. So
Yeah.
I'm actually glad that your artist stuck with you on this because again, it just shows more that a he could do any style, first of all.
Mhm.
And the fact that he loved doing it,
Yeah.
it does speak volumes. So it's like, okay, this is definitely a story that I want to read, and this might be a great book.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, man. And the imposter syndrome is always going to hit, right? You're always going to be like, hey, man, is this good enough? Is this not good enough? And I felt like, you know what? I have to take a shot. It's a story I want to tell. Let me just tell it. Let me commit to it and see what happens. And it was easy to write in the sense that it's semi autobiographical. It's not exactly the things that happen in the book didn't exactly happen to me, but it was easy to write it because it came from a place where, like, growing up, like I told you before, like I didn't feel like I fit in all the time, and we all deal with bullying growing up,
Yeah,
and how do you deal with it? How do you turn that situation into a positive? What happens to you from that point on? And I think that I explored that a little bit, like, this, something similar happened to me, not exactly the way it happens in the book, but put that in the book, see where that goes, explore that. And so it was easy to write because of it, easier, I should say, because
yeah.
of it. And yeah, and I'm glad I did it, actually. I really am.
Well, you should be. You
Yeah.
should be because again, I know that your success is going to pay off. It already paid off with Wonder Duck, but I know this is going to be a hit
Thanks,
because, folks, I've actually seen the pages. I've seen some of the pages,
man.
especially from the first chapter, and I was really impressed.
Thank you.
And just looking at the Shameless Plug itself, this could be marketable as a toy.
Yeah, yeah. So I have in the campaign, I actually linked up with uh, with another creator, and I'll tell you guys more about that when it launches. But I have
Yeah,
these little blip chips. They're called blip chips, and they came out really cool. I got to show them to you guys. I don't have one with me here, but yeah, I do want to explore that. I want to explore that. I want to explore the plushies. I want to do different things with him because I think he lends itself to that kind of stuff. I want to explore maybe just doing children's books with this character and stuff like that. So beyond the graphic novel, I do want to explore other things because I think I'm a big believer that we should be reaching a younger audience so that comic books continue to exist. Because once we are gone or kids a certain age out, they're not going to want to read comics anymore. So we have to kind of like, get them similar to what the guy with Captain Underpants did and all that other stuff.
yeah.
We do need books like that. So I do want to explore some more avenues that way with the Shameless Plug.
Well, I think it should because the character could definitely go in a direction at this
Hmm.
point, especially with the way he looks. It's very marketable and like it's very honest, and that's what
Thanks.
children actually like. They like honest books. Yes,
Yeah.
they like the fantasy and the fantastic, of course, but still, I've seen more kids geared to stuff like this, and then eventually go on to other comics and superhero stuff and all that stuff. But it's always stuff like this that they always start with. So this is perfect timing for that.
Yeah. No. And you know what I think. I think it's one of those things where, like, growing up, right? I was a big fan of like the 80s movies and 90s movies. And I think a lot of those movies talk more about things that we can relate to rather than just like what was going on as far as like, today Marvel movies are very popular and stuff like that. But I think that
Yeah,
growing up, movies like The Karate Kid or like, Back to the Future and things like that, they dealt with things that, kids, The Breakfast Club was a perfect example, that movie, where it's like kids today can relate to those topics because that happens in high schools even today. The jock, the popular
yeah,
kid, those archetypes are always going to be there in our lives at some point. So when you write a story about those things, they kind of like, they transcend the test of time. And I think that that's important when you're writing a story. I think, to some extent, you don't want it to kind of like feel like it's dated. And but that's also tough to do because, how do you attack a certain topic, or how do you write a certain book that way? So, but I think it's important, though. I think it is important to have stories like that.
yeah. It is true. And in fact, it's funny that you mentioned Back to the Future because the original writer Bob Gale had
Mm.
actually started getting ideas from a visit from when he made a visit back to his parents' house
Yeah,
and saw a yearbook. And he actually looked through his yearbook and his father's yearbook and saw his father was, had the chess club or something like that. But he kept wondering if I'd gone back to school with my father,
yeah. What
would
would
I have
that?
been friends with him or would I have hated him?
Right.
You
Yeah.
know, and it and that question made it relatable. I'm like, that's actually good insight because you know you're right. There are archetypes, where they have the bully, the jock, the nerd, the cheerleader, and
Yeah.
all that in
Yeah.
the Breakfast Club. But that's always gonna be there. But I can say it's not cool to be nerds. It's cool to be nerds. That's the first thing. But it does make it relatable, and that's always going to be there. So as long as you have, a subject matter that's relatable,
Yeah.
then it's timeless. Then people can
True.
connect.
True.
And you've got one that's very relatable, especially coming from another country, into this strange new place, which is almost like you're on another planet because you
Mm-hmm.
have to speak the language now. That's the first thing.
Yeah.
And you just have to understand how this actually works. But sometimes you do clash, with, neighborhood bullies or school bullies. But eventually you do find those few friends that become even bigger. It gives you confidence and you get more friends. And then you just ignore the bullies.
Yeah, yeah, you do, and I think that's the thing, man. I think we all kind of go through that moment in time. Even if you were the cool kid, in high school, maybe in elementary school, you were the kid that everybody was picking on. You know what I mean? Like, I think we all go through it, and I think that when I was telling you before, it's like not even just in school, like at jobs, like you're the new person at the job, like there's
Yeah.
cliques there too. It's like, okay, how do and obviously, as we get older, we start caring less because we grow up and we're like, I don't give a crap
Yeah.
about that. But, you know, there's the politics of like where you work and, if you want a raise, who do you got to talk to? And, all of that stuff still happens to a certain extent. And a lot of people may say, I don't give a crap about that anymore. And that's cool. And that's great. If you are at that point in your life, that's amazing, but not everybody's there, And so I think that that's why, fitting in, matters to a lot of people, you know?
Yeah. It's true. And, it is true because especially when you do get older, even if you're in your 40s and you just start a new job, like you just said, yeah, you kind of are the outsider because
Yeah.
you have a team that's already been, a working machine,
Yeah.
and you're the cog in the machine, and you gotta make sure, okay, am I gonna fit in, or am
Right.
I just gonna be a problem?
Yeah.
And yeah, some adults, don't care,
Hmm.
but others, a good majority, do because yeah, they want to get along with their coworkers. They want to make sure that everyone's on the same level, and a number of people are very lucky that that happens.
Yeah.
Sometimes it doesn't, but again, they just manage through it. But for those who are lucky enough, that's fine.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, especially at a job or something like that, like, if you work a 9 to 5, you probably spend more time with those people at work than you do even with the people at home, So
Yeah,
like to go to a job where you're constantly like this against somebody, it's not cool, man. Like, It makes you
No.
hate going to work. And so, like, imagine being a little kid who has something going on at school. You don't want to go to school every day, So how do kids cope? And when I was doing a little bit of research for the book, I looked into like imaginary friends, and I found out that a lot of kids do create these imaginary friends to help them cope with some of the drama that may be happening in their lives that they don't know how to handle. So they create these imaginary friends to help them kind of get through that, through those moments. And I was like, when I read that, I was like, oh God, so this is what the story is. You know what I mean? Who is the shameless plug? And how does he help Joaquin, who's the main character in the story? How does he help him, cope with, his bully? And so it helped me write the story. That actually helped me kind of like figure out the story at that point, because now
Yeah.
there was, okay, this even though it's an imaginary friend, it could be kind of grounded in like what really happens when kids are going through something like this. And so I added that into, it helped me create a more believable story in a sense, even though it was something that I had kind of gone through growing up.
Yeah. That's another thing. There's very few stories that actually deals with imaginary friends.
Mm.
Now we've seen obviously movies that have come out with
Yeah.
imaginary friends and all that. We've seen that, but we didn't really see that like maybe 20 years ago. We didn't really
Yeah.
see that.
Yeah.
So it's very refreshing to see stuff like that happens now, because kids do that, especially when they're trying to cope with a problem. They do
Right.
create these imaginary characters. But yeah, again, it makes it even more relatable.
Yeah. I actually, I don't know if you remember this movie. It was like I don't think it was, not too many people, speak highly of it, but do you remember a movie called Drop Dead Fred?
Yes, I do. I remember this.
Yeah. So,
1991. It was what was it? Rick Maynard?
yeah, I think that
Yeah,
was his name. But yeah,
yeah,
it was about a girl who kind of like grew up, but her imaginary friend came back and kind of like almost like haunted her. Like, all right, dude, like I'm grown up. Why are you still doing here? And Drop Dead Fred was this imaginary friend that she created when she was a little girl, and he still thinks that she's a little girl, but she's not, and she's like trying to get rid of him. And I thought that was, I watched that movie, yeah, obviously in the '90s when it came out, and it
yeah.
kind of like I was like, huh, interesting. Let me see. Let me watch that movie again to see if what I could take from it. And I couldn't take anything from it because it wasn't great, but it was entertaining. I will say it was entertaining. It was entertaining.
Yeah, it's like with ever seen the movie Hook?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, that movie's about amnesia,
Mm.
because you have a character Peter Banning, who's really Peter Pan, just forget about his past. He
Yeah.
does not remember.
Yeah.
But when he gets to Neverland to save his kids, and there's a moment where he goes into the treehouse and he starts to remember his childhood. He starts to remember things. So yeah, because at some point I was like, well, did he think that Tinkerbell and the rest of the Lost Boys were his imaginary friends? Is that what he thought?
Yeah.
Maybe he did. As when he came out of the Neverland, maybe he did,
Right.
because at that point he grew up, and I'm like, okay, that would make sense if you're an adult, because you forget that aspect of your personality as a kid.
Hmm.
Obviously, it was not the case. He actually did legitimately forget. And he did remember eventually,
Yeah.
but it made me think about that.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I love, actually, Peter Pan is a great example of that, because Peter Pan deals with what happens when you grow up, right? Like you can no longer fly because you've matured and you don't believe you can fly anymore.
yeah,
So you don't, because you don't believe it anymore. And it explores those kind of themes, and I'm like, it's so deep, like when you think about like not wanting to grow up. And like you talked about like us being creators and stuff like that, and like we don't want to grow up, and we create these stories because we want to continue to live in that world that we create. And it sounds negative and it sounds kind of silly, I guess, but it's a beautiful thing, dude, to live in this world, especially when the real world is the way it is, to be able
yeah,
to escape into something like what we create, whether even if it is a violent story that you're creating, or a horror story, or whatever it is. It's still a form of an escape that's different than what you're seeing out there. And I love stories like that kind of like allow me to escape, where I don't have to think too much. You know, I think today we overanalyze everything, and we want a movie to be perfect, and that movie didn't make sense. It had these plot holes. Then you look at movies from like when you were growing up that you might love, and there are tons of plot holes in it, but we didn't even, we suspended disbelief at that moment just to enjoy the movie. And I think we stopped doing that now. You know what I mean? We want everything to make sense and be perfect.
That's I always thought was the problem with modern storytelling in movies, because everyone wants to be perfect. Yeah, that's fine, but also you just want a movie that feels good.
Yeah,
that makes you with a good feeling. That's why I like the big popcorn blockbuster movies, because they don't have to make sense. They make me feel good. Make me make sense of the world.
Yeah.
And we did lose sight of that, because in the 90s, in the 80s, we had it pretty good with the storytelling. I mean, come on. You had Indiana Jones, for God's sakes. You had, Star Wars. You had Jaws. Well, maybe so much Jaws, because that makes you afraid of going in the water. But still, we had these type of stories that you suspend disbelief, and you just enjoy the ride as it is.
Yeah.
I'm actually grateful that stories like yours are going back to that type of thinking, where you don't have to overanalyze. You could just enjoy the moment and maybe learn a lesson or two from this.
Yeah, and you know what? And I think that part of as a writer, and you know, because you're a writer, I think part of it is to keep your personal, like, I guess, opinions about certain things to yourself as far as it goes, and let the audience decide for themselves. What do you think? I'm gonna throw it out there, and you tell me what you think, so that you're not preaching to unless that's what your story's about. But for me, the stories that hit me the most are the stories that don't preach to me, or don't want, or aren't giving me a message. There's a movie, I mean, very recent, just came out, not too long ago. Project Hail Mary. Have you seen it?
Yes, I've seen it.
Yeah, great movie. I loved. I don't know if you. I loved it. I thought it was a great movie.
I thoroughly enjoy it. I thought I read the book
Oh,
before
you
that.
did?
Yeah, I saw it recently. Um, for the use of streaming, obviously. Because originally I wanted to see it with my friends, but we could never got a chance to see it. But I finally saw it, and I thought it was spectacular, because once again, it was about just it had a very complicated plot, obviously, but it's also just a simple journey of just self exploration. What you're capable of doing, and here's a guy that was clearly out of his element. In a lot of ways, but he overcame that because A, he had no choice, and B, he just marveled at everything.
Yeah.
And we were the audience with him. He was us.
Yeah. And I mean, you read the book, so I don't know if the book holds up to the movie. I'm sure the book is
Oh, it
very
does.
different.
It does. The book holds up. I was very impressed with what I saw.
Yeah. And like we can all take different things from it. For me, it was a story of friendship, right? And it was a friendship found in the most, craziest place, outer space, with an alien who, and what they did with the alien was incredible, because they made me feel for it, even though it didn't even have a face. It was incredible what that writer did, or what those writers did with that story, and how they made you feel. And it was done without telling you, hey, be good to each other, or help each other out, work together. Like, it didn't do any of that. It just showed us a story and let us make the decision as to how do we want to live our lives, in a sense.
Yeah.
And I think, though, that's great storytelling for me. I think that that's the kind of storytelling that, it's not intrusive, it's not preachy, it's fun. It's fun.
Yeah. And that's something we need to get back to in that type of
Yeah,
storytelling.
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah. Another thing that I know this is probably, some of it was probably too preachy, but Star Trek was also like that as well. Yeah,
Yeah.
some of it was preachy. I will admit that.
Yeah.
But there was moments and episodes where they weren't, and you just got the message without actually having them say it.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, so I cannot be more pleased with this, and I know it's going to be a hit. I know it. I know it in my heart that's going to be a hit because
Mhm.
again, it's very relatable. And when it does come online, when it actually launches, I'm going to promote the hell out of it
Thank you.
because
Thank
this is a story that needs to be shared with the world.
Thank you. And I really appreciate that, man. And I think that, that's one of those things that when you're doing this, like we're doing this, and then you do it long enough, you find the people that are gonna support you, and they're gonna have your back, and that means a lot because writing and creating stories. And again, I spoke to you a little earlier about the imposter syndrome, right? Like it's hard, man. It's hard. It's hard to say, all right, this is good enough to put out there, or damn, nobody's really interested in this. I don't have anybody reaching out about, picking up a copy or whatever it is. And you can really, start doubting yourself and not wanting to do this. So saying that you will support it that way, I really appreciate that, man. It means a lot.
Yeah, because I know what it's like. I've had days where I've doubted myself, especially in the making of this. But at some point, you gotta just let those negative voices out and just say, you know what, I'm gonna keep doing it. I'm gonna keep being me. I'm gonna keep writing this because I like it. I like doing it, and I'm pretty sure there is an audience out there. I just need to find them. So
Right.
that's what it is. And slowly and surely, I'm finding out that there is an audience for this, and they do want this because I've had other creators that that come on the show, and I promote my books. They actually buy a copy, whether it's digital or physical, and sometimes I get honest and very good reactions.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what I've gotten so far. I haven't got any negative ones, but it just it just keeps me going, and also say, okay, I'm definitely gonna be a even better storyteller as I go along because
Mhm.
it gets better and better as we go
Yeah.
along because we never stop learning. We don't.
Mhm, mhm. I agree. I think that the minute that you think you've got it all figured out, that's where you start failing because you think that there's nothing else to learn, and there is so much more to learn. Every single time you put something out, you're going to learn something from it. And if you think that you got it, then that's when you stop getting better. That's when you start,
No,
yeah.
no, that's never gonna happen for me because I don't want to stop learning,
Mhm.
and I don't want to stop, figuring out how to make, making these comics because yes, it is a process, but I enjoy the process, and again, I don't want to stop learning.
Yeah, yeah, I agree, dude. And there's always something to learn, man. Like even, no matter how long you do this, there's always something new coming up, whether it's a new technology, whether it's a new program that's coming out that you can learn how to use or whatever it is. You're constantly going to learn something. If you stay in it long enough, you're going to be learning every day. Every day you're going to learn something new.
You have to, otherwise, what's the point?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, 100%.
And there's also a fear of once you stop, you can't ever really start again.
Mm,
So
mhm.
that's another fear, and the fact that you and I don't want to stop says a lot.
Yeah, it's funny, man. I think if you're doing this for the right reason, you're never going to be able to stop
Yeah,
because it finds a way to like keep you going. And I attend conventions, even if I'm not behind a table. I just go to conventions to kind of like be around that because I don't want to, not, I don't want to stop doing it. So I want to surround myself with people that love doing this, like yourself,
yeah.
like, anybody who I see at these conventions that I'm like, oh man, you're doing this. It's cool. This looks great. This looks good. And just being around that, I think, fills you with that desire. Like when you get home, you're ready to create again because you've been surrounded with that, with all of that all day. So yeah, I love going to conventions for that same reason.
Yeah, it's always cool to see what's coming up in out of the big companies, but it's always these people that always gets me going because to see what new concept they have, in any genre they clearly love is exciting to me because I'm like, wow, I didn't think of it that way. I didn't think, there would be a story like this. So yeah.
It's true. It's true. And it's always fun to see how like the different ideas that people have. Like I've seen some really, really cool stories being told, man, that now we can actually put them out because it's gotten a lot easier to put out your own book than it
Yeah.
was a few years ago. Now, if you have an idea, there's plenty of on-demand printers that you can use. There's plenty of artists online that you can find if you're a writer, or programs that you can use if you're an artist, as far as like whether it's, Clip Studio Art or whatever it is that you want to use. I mean, digital art has become a phenomenon now.
Oh yeah.
And it's a lot, and it makes you a lot faster because there's a lot of, that you can edit right there as you're drawing. So, if you want to create something, it's just gotten so much easier to do it. And there's a lot of talent out there, man. You look at a lot of these crowdfunding campaigns and you see,
Yeah.
you're like, holy cow, dude! Like, there's just so much talent out there. It's
I
insane.
know.
It's insane.
It's crazy, and obviously some of them have been on the show, and I'm like,
Mhm.
my God, where have you been?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
You have this insane talent,
yeah,
and
yeah.
you know, I was glad that they're able to do it. I'm glad that they're promoting. I'm glad they're actually getting the books out, and a lot of them are doing very well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But you got to work, right? It's a grind, and you
Oh
really have to
yeah,
work. So, it doesn't come easy. But if you put the work in,
no,
you you
yeah,
you're gonna make it happen. You really are.
yeah, and if you do put the work in, it shows. It
Oh
shows in the
yeah,
quality of your work, and
absolutely, absolutely.
but I always tell this to any artist or writer that wants to come into this business. I'm going to paraphrase something that one of my instructors, Klaus Jansen, had said to us. At the time, again, he said this: if you want to think about coming to the comic books industry, don't. All right, just don't. It's hard. It's a lot of work, and yeah, he was right about his hard work and all that. But you don't say that to people, that are coming in the business,
Yeah,
because when I went to college and he was my college instructor, the business, the indie industry wasn't where it is now.
yeah,
You know, Kickstarter wasn't up and running, and this is like 2012. It wasn't up and running yet, and even Indigo wasn't running. But now, years later, we have all these, platforms where we could, promote our stuff, and the fan base is different. The comic fan base is different because they want more originality in the comics.
yeah, yeah.
So I think my advice to you guys is this: if you really want to be a comic book creator and a really good one, or at least good enough to be surrounded by these great other talents, you gotta get out of the library and do it.
It's true, man. You really have to do it. Like, there's nothing that you can. It's like anything else, dude. Like, you can read the manual, the driver's manual. You can read it. You can learn it. You can know it from front to back. It's not until you get behind that wheel of a car that you really
Yeah,
learn how to drive. You know
yeah,
what I'm saying? And that's what you have to do. You have to get behind the wheel to learn how to drive because you can learn. I'm telling you, you can memorize that driver's manual. You can know exactly, but it's not until you feel how much pressure you got to put on that pedal to go fast or stop or whatever that you're going to learn how to do it. So you have to really get your hands on and do it. It's not enough to just think you've read something and you know it. Like you have to get out there. You got to do it.
yeah. And to actually quote another person that I like this quote. It's from Yogi Berra. When you come to the fork in the road, take it.
That's it. That's it.
Yeah. So that's it for pretty much Comics 101. That's pretty much it. But that's there's no secret though. There's no secret. You just
Really isn't.
yeah,
Yeah.
if you have an idea that you really want to, develop it and make sure it's good. Have your closest friends and even any creators read it. And see what they get their inputs. Do not be afraid of criticism. I can't stress this enough because you will get criticized
Oh yeah.
throughout your whole career. But take the good criticism, rewrite, make it better.
Yeah. Absolutely, man. And that's it. And that's all it is. I think you have to have thick skin, man. You
Yeah,
can't. You have to have thick skin. You can't let it bother you. You have to, and you have to push. I mean, it's just take the good with the bad. You know.
yeah. And believe me, I was looking at a lot of the artwork that I had during my college years when I was actually in Klaus Jansen's class. Oh my God, I did so much wrong. I finally learned how to do story to tell tell better stories. I finally learned because I just watch a lot of movies. I look at everything. I look at Spielberg in particular, how he does his storytelling. So I adopt that into my own scripts because I do write them like they're movies. But I finally figured out how to tell stories better.
Yeah,
But I want to even be even better than that. So I had to keep learning. So don't stop learning.
that's it. That's it, man. You can't stop learning, man. You gotta keep going. You gotta keep
Yeah.
going, man. Yeah, no. And you know what? Oh, what I did want to tell you guys is that as far as Wonder Duck goes, so I'm working on on another another story for Wonder Duck that I'm hoping to release by maybe beginning of next year. So yeah, Wonder Duck is back in production, and I can't wait to see. I can't wait for you guys to see the rest of the story. So it's going to go on.
All right. I like that. I can't wait to see what happens next.
Thanks, man. Yeah, and thank you for picking up the book, man. I appreciate that.
Uh, I was gonna pick it up no matter what because it looks so cool, And I told you that I was a fan of Ducktales and
Oh,
Donald Duck, as a kid, so I was gonna pick it up no matter what. But it was such a well told story. It was so well paced, and the action, the art, it was just great. It was just great.
thank you, man. Thank you so much. Yeah, no, I was a big fan of that era of cartoons. You know, the Disney
Yeah.
afternoon. That was my joint. So thank you so much. I really appreciate you saying that because that's exactly what I was going for. So yeah, I'm going to continue to do it. Joseph and I were working on the next few chapters of the book of the Wonder Duck saga, the adventures, and so I'm hoping to have that by early next year. So this year it'll be about the Shameless Plug, which I'll be the campaign goes live next week, the 26th, and then the book should be to me hopefully from the printers by August. So I'll be fulfilling the orders then.
Nice, nice. George, I can't thank you enough for coming back on to share this with us, and definitely good luck with the
Thank you.
campaign. Because again, I know it's gonna be a hit.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Folks, all I can say is I'm on my last page of Codename Hunter issue 5. I'm very excited. Some stuff happens in this issue, and it's gonna be exciting. And then I'm gonna get ready to start writing my second story arc, and that's gonna be even bigger. And I'll probably do a reveal on that after I do my campaign, which will hopefully be in late July. But I want to get everything done before then. And as a matter of fact, I actually have to make sure I get everything done for issue 5 right now, hopefully for this week. So I give it my inker and he can start inking it.
There you go, man. Got to keep it in production. That's it.
Yeah, because he's been patiently waiting and he's a great guy. But yeah, other than that, I don't really have any other news other than I haven't recorded for the Patreon page. I'm going to, don't worry. But for those who like to hear me as a bad guy in a Batman audio drama, a fan one,
Awesome.
just go to New Verse Media. In fact, let me just see if I can pull it up right now,
Yeah, dude.
YouTube channel.
It's so good, man. It's so good. I was like, oh, that's Ian. That sounds great, man. So yeah, kudos to you, man. Great job.
Yeah, everyone did a fantastic job on this. I was very pleased with everyone. Tim Maxwell is the head of New Verse Media. He directed the thing. Ben Wan, who I've had on the show before, he's phenomenal. He's a great writer, very great friend, and he also voices the Michael Keaton Batman in this audio drama. Because it takes place in the Burton verse. It specifically takes place after Batman Returns. So this is actually Batman 89 Gotham Guardian. So you just find it on the YouTube. Just go to Newverse Media. So this is what it looks like. This is the actual page.
It's cool.
Yeah. And if you haven't listened to it yet, go ahead and listen to it. But if there's another one that I did, well, I did several of these, but I did Batman Enigma, which is based on the fan comic that I wrote with Eric Elliott and Paul Brian McCoy on here. And that was released like 8 months ago. Ah, here it is. Yeah, so if you haven't listened to that yet, I would. It's also a motion comic.
Oh, man, damn, that's awesome.
Yeah, with some of my art, with a lot of my artwork in it. So, yeah,
Sweet. Yeah.
yeah. So don't, yeah. So you don't want to miss that. So definitely check out Gotham Guardian, where I actually play the voice Firebug, not to be confused with Firefly. Yeah, and Ben One plays Batman. So it's an exciting story, and I think you're all gonna like it.
It's great, dude. I listened to it, man, and I enjoyed the heck out of it. I was like, oh man, this sounds freaking cool as hell, dude. It was
Well,
so
I
good.
guess, yeah, I guess send you the rest of the stuff that I wrote, and also you check out the channel for yourself because I know you drive, and
Yeah,
it's yeah.
yeah, no, dude. Yeah, no, I loved it, dude. I loved it. It was great. It was really fun. A lot of
All
fun.
right, thank you. Well, I think that's just gonna be it for us tonight. I'm Ian Miller, and this has been Triple Threat Comics YouTube channel. Have yourselves a great night.
Peace.
Also, be sure to actually follow us on our social media accounts, including Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. And if you'd like to follow us on YouTube, just hit that like button and subscribe.